Hi guys, welcome to the next part in the Git series of Adventurous Coder. Today we are going to learn more about Git. In the previous video, I talked about the basics of Git and what Git is, version control, how to add files to the staging area, commit them in your remote local repository. So today we are just going to take it up a notch. We are going to involve remote repositories. So last time I explained what a remote repository was. A quick recap would be a remote repository is a code base that is outside of your local system or your laptop in an unknown remote place. So that is what we call a remote repository. So what is a common remote repository? GitHub is a very common one. So what you are going to do is open GitHub, create an account on it. I already have one. You get to see my GitHub alias, that is Drago FireUp. Don't ask me why it's not Adventurous Coder, but yeah, I'm just showing it out there on what it looks like. So create a GitHub account. Let me show you in private how it looks like. You have it, you create your account, you sign up for it, and then I'm not going to show you how to do it. You're going to do this as an exercise on your own. Generate an SSH key or a GPG key. What does this mean is your GitHub is a remote repository and you have your local system. You need a kind of a key to ensure GitHub knows who you are and if you're authorized to actually update this repository or not, access this repository or not. So for this, you're gonna create a SSH key or a GPG key. These are just different ways of signing or signing and authentication systems. I will talk about all of this in a separate video entirely away from Git. This is part of a software engineering knowledge. We need to know this, how these works. But this is an entirely different video. Just understand that this is to ensure GitHub understands who you are and how do you connect with it. I'll share these links in the description below for you to create, generate, and then add an SSH key. Follow these steps for your device. You can check here it's Mac, Windows, or Linux. They change, there's a commands change a bit, not much of a difference. But follow these, do this exercise on your own to get to understand how to do it. Read through this documentation. I would like you to do it. If you do it, it'd be great so that you understand more on what's happening and not just copy paste the commands which I would type on my screen. Please do this on your own. Thank you. We are going to go to the next part of the video. The next part is to create a repository in GitHub. So far we talked about the local repository. Let me open and show you that local repository that I created last time. That was in documents and we called it a git repo. Yeah, so we had a git repo. We saw that we added two commits, initial file and a second commit in our local repository. For a remote repository, we first need to create a remote repository. So in GitHub, on your main page, on the left hand side, you will see that new repository link, and we're going to name it git repo. Well, practice repository. I'm going to mark it public. Public means everyone can see it. Private means no one can. I'll even share it in the description below, whatever the link is. We are not going to add a README file uh, because we already have one. Now, for last time I didn't explain what a README file is. Well, as the name suggests, README. So this just means more about this project or the GitHub repository. Read this to understand what it is. I'll explain about git ignore in a later video, but right now let's just mark it as none. And I'll also explain about the licensing in a later video. But for now, let's just do it as a none. Create repository. Voila. GitHub created a repository for us on its server. So now how do we connect our local repository to GitHub repository? Thankfully, GitHub gives us some of these options on how to do it. So we're going to follow this option and do it. So next one is connecting my local repo to remote repo. So this git bash is my local repo and this GitHub is my remote repo. Now as the local repo exists, so we're going to push an existing repository from the command line because we already have one. And if we didn't create new repository on the command line, we have already done these steps, so we're going to skip it. Before we type in the command, let's open GitHub Git documentation, not the GitHub documentation, my bad. Because as I said, as a software engineer, we need to know what we do. We can't just mug up things. We need to understand what we are typing because every command has a meaning to it. So we saw in GitHub that it said to do a git remote. So, okay, what does git remote do? Manage set of tracked repositories. So that means this just helps Git to tell, okay, what are these repositories I want you to manage using remote? These are my remote repositories that it's going to add. So let's just type that git remote. The next one was add. So what does add do? Add a remote named for the repository. So this helps us add a new remote name. In the example given, uh, that is in the GitHub, it's gonna be origin. So we're gonna write add origin. That means this is the remote name. Can we name it something else? Yes, we can also name it random. We can also name it coder. We can also name it awesome. Anything is fine because the documentation says so. Name. So this name means it can be any name. So that's why reading documentation is important. Origin. And then later we add the URL. So the URL is gonna be this one, git@github.com. So let me just paste that. Okay, this is bad paste and add. Now I successfully added this. How do I show it? Well, we see this. I added random before. My bad, I forgot to remove it. But yeah, you can see I can have multiple remote origins and not just one. So that's what it means to add a remote origin. Now I've told remote URL. So now when I say origin to Git, it knows that it's supposed to link to this repository present. Now we're going to skip the next part of the branch. And what we're going to do is we're going to push. Let me show back. Now we have connected to our local repo. Now we are going to push the code. So we're going to write git push. Well, let's go back to the documentation, read about it. Push. So update remote references along with associated objects. So refs means references along with associated objects. Basically, it means you're updating your remote repository with your local repository. So that's why, again, another reason why you should read documentation to understand what you're going to do. So we're gonna write this. Then we saw hyphen u. What does hyphen u mean? For every branch that is up to date or successfully pushed, add upstream. So it just means the upstream value. So going forward, whenever I say I want to do a push, now I'm trying to say what the upstream is going to look like. So it is going to be origin master. So hyphen u, my upstream use the remote origin, and then my branch master push it to that. I'm gonna press enter. Git is gonna do a lot of things behind, authenticate you, push the objects, and then let's go and reload this page. Voila, this is a change. So what we have essentially done is we had a remote, we had a user with C1, C2. Now we have a remote C1, C2. But can we add a local user? Can a user add C3? Yes, they can. So let me just open the README again. This is the third change. Let's check. Git add, git commit, uh, hyphen m, third commit. Now let's just check our log. So we saw a log, this is a third commit, but we don't have that change on our GitHub repo yet, even after reloading. So what we're gonna do is we'll have to again git push hyphen u origin master. So now we see, voila, this is the third change, and we got a third commit as well. As you can see a git log there, you can also see the rest of the history here as well. I'm gonna do an entire separate video on how to use your GitHub properly, but for now let's just look at this. Yeah, then let's move forward. Now you have pushed this code. Yeah, so let's say this is a developer one who has pushed this code. This is in the remote repository. Now how does a developer two do? So I'm gonna make this git bash as developer one and open on the git bash. Let's put these in the side. Let me go to documents, mkdir git repo 2. Now why can I call it git repo 2? As I previously mentioned, this is my working directory. As a developer, I'm going to use my working directory, correct? So if I'm going to use my working directory, I can do anything that I want in it. I can name it any wish. But usually when you clone, you GitHub or the Git when you clone, it creates a folder of the same name of the repository, local remote repository name in your local desktop. So how do I clone it? There are two ways. You can go to GitHub, use if you have used SSH, you want to use HTTPS, anything's fine. Click on it, and then what you're going to do is git clone. Uh, this is gonna be a bad copy. Write it. Now it's cloning git repository. Now you see inside my git repo 2, there is another git repo present. So now I've successfully cloned my remote repository as another developer. So left hand side is the first one that I created. The right hand side is the one that I just cloned right now. And it has the same commits, third commit, second commit, and initial file. So this way I can have two developers working on the same repository. Now, yeah, we got how do other devs get the changes. So let's go back to our GitHub. Let's open both the Git bashes. So we have a D1, we have a D2 on the right side, developer 1 on the left, developer 2 on the right. Let's say this time developer 2 did a change. I am going to vim readme. I'm just going to open it. This is the fourth change done by developer 2. Now I do a git push origin master. Now why I can do origin by default without, oh my bad, I didn't do an add or a commit, so it's not going to do anything. Why I can use origin by default is because I use git clone as a command. So when you use git clone, it automatically knows where you're cloning this repository from. So it also knows where you'll push your code to. So that is why I don't need to do that git remote add origin. It's automatically done by the clone command. Now I check, fourth commit is added, git push origin master. Let me reload this. Now I have the fourth change by developer 2 mentioned here. But my developer 1 still has only 3 commits. So how does it get it? It does a git pull. When it does a git pull, we get some more logs. We see git log. It got the fourth commit. We can read the readme as well, and it says this is the fourth change done by developer 2. So this way, two developers that are working isolated in their own systems can share the changes. You don't I remember the time when I used to Gmail my changes to my friends when working with them before I knew Git. But with Git, it is very easy with Git and GitHub. It's very easy to use all of this. Let's move on to the next part. Well, how do I keep changes away from the rest of the code base? My bad. Uh, So now what we have done is we have like two developers working on things, two different things. But let's say I don't want to push it to the master branch because master branch being the main branch, that means all of my main changes are going to be there. But I'm testing out some changes. I'm not sure of it, but I still want it on my remote repository for backup. So how do I ensure I do not interfere with my main branch? So what developer 2 will do is he's going to create a new branch by calling git checkout hyphen b. For pull and checkout, I'm not opening the documentation because I want you to go up and read about it. I want you to come back and tell what hyphen b means. So git checkout hyphen b, I'm going to rename it as test. Now my master changed to test. This was master, now this is test. I'm going to call it, I'm going to check the git logs. It has all the four commits. Now I'm gonna do another change in the README. This is fifth change done by developer 2 in test branch. So let's call it like that. We're gonna add, we're gonna commit fifth change in test branch. We're gonna do a push, but this time we're gonna write test because, well, the branch name is test. Git push origin test. Great. Now, well, beautiful. GitHub shows this. We can see all the branches. Now we have a test branch present, which has my fifth change. Correct. But now when I go back to my master, that is my developer 2's fifth change is not present. And I can also verify by doing git pull on the developer 1 side. I will not see any change apart from the branch that is present, obviously. So git log, but I can check out here one part, or rather, I can check out test, which will have the fifth commit. Fun, interesting, right? So this way, developers can collaborate easily even in branches without trying to touch the main code. Branches are usually used to ensure your feature developments happen in that they are isolated from your production level code. You can test your branches separately out before sending them to your main production. So that is why branches are used. Multiple devs work on a single branch as well when they are all working on the same feature. This is the importance of a branch. Lastly, how to list branches. Well, we just saw how we can list branches in GitHub, but how do we do it in Bash? So we just write git branch. We see that we have a master branch and a test branch as well. Well, I'm keeping this video short today to ensure you have enough time to test this out. Do play around with Git, try out these basic things, create your GitHub account, create a remote repo, push your code to the remote repo, try out different things. That's the best way to learn things. But this time I'm just keeping it short because I understand there's a lot to take in, and this is more interesting, more vast. Now you see how do actually developers work across the world by using the power of Git and a remote tool, a version control tool like GitHub. For more videos like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be coming up with more videos on Git, GitHub, and also I know that I've not done a DSA video in some time. I'll also be doing one of those. Thank you for watching this video. Also, please click on book a session with me on the top mate link shared in the description for talking to me outside of YouTube. Thank you.